I'm Jennifer Novak, and I work with a lot of property owners and investors who find themselves in the unfortunate situation of learning that they own a property that might be contaminated, or where they have to spend a lot of money to find out whether that's the case. Now, I'm not talking about people who intentionally buy contaminated properties because they've already weighed the costs and the risks. For some of our clients, that's a calculated risk, and they're really looking at the property as an investment. No, I'm talking about clients who weren't trying to buy a contaminated property. And many of them aren't that different from you or people that you know. Sometimes they've only had a property for a few years, and sometimes they've had it for decades. But at some point, they learn that they can be responsible for investigating and cleaning up that property, even if they weren't the ones who caused the pollution. And it's important to understand how this can happen to know whether it can happen to you. So here are 5 situations that we commonly see where a property owner ended up in trouble. So first, it's not unusual for our clients to have bought a property in circumstances where they had to move quickly, like an auction or a foreclosure. And there's just not a lot of time to do a proper due diligence. So they take a chance and it gets skipped, and you don't get critical facts about the property's condition, and what you don't know can hurt you. Now, another way we see buyers in trouble is when they do some due diligence, like a phase 1, but it's either incomplete or it doesn't raise any major red flags. It might be that none of the current tenants engage in a business known for polluting, and the property might not show up on any government websites to show that there are known problems. So the buyer feels comfortable and they go ahead with the transaction, even though they don't really have the full story. Another problem is when people get distracted by how much revenue a property can generate, or based on what a good deal it is compared with the comps in the area. And these aren't going to matter much if your property is actually devalued, because you're going to have to spend a lot of money on investigation or remediation. Now, a fourth way we see people get into trouble is if they don't account for regional problems. An environmental investigation sometimes just looks at the immediate area, but there may be problems that started miles away that are still going to affect your property, and you may still end up paying the money to investigate just to prove your property didn't cause those problems. And finally, we see people who try to engage in some due diligence on their own, but they don't really understand what they're reading. So just because a property receives a no further action letter or they've been closed in the past, it doesn't mean that the property is clean. And it also doesn't mean a government agency isn't going to knock on your door at some point in the future to demand other work. Now, let me close by saying that we do have clients who come to us because they're interested in the property, they know it might be contaminated, and they want us to help them evaluate the potential future costs and liabilities. We have other clients who are very conservative about this, and they only want to buy a property if it's low risk, so we can help them with that evaluation. But some people fall into the trap of getting more than they bargained for. Don't be one of those people. Give us a call and we can work with you to help sort through some of these questions.